So this is Sombrero wearing Dinosaur, and it is written by a wizard experience starring Meds 2.0, which is a wonderful name, and I want to give some points to the story just by virtue of the author having creative naming practices. Also for the name of the fucking story, like Sombrero wearing Dinosaur immediately captures your attention, regardless of the context. Uh, so I want to point out before I get started, I've been exposed to the story via the Bean Daddy Mandela channel, and the link to his channel will be in the description below. And I was not in the stream itself. I have streamed with Bean Daddy and Kenzie and Raptor a few times, but I was in the chat the entire time, and I was like voicing out my opinions based on what they're reading. And then, honestly, I don't know how much of the story I really picked up on and digested, because a fair amount of people seem to be praising the story and saying that there's more to it than what it seems, and it doesn't help that the image is kind of silly to begin with. So I'm gonna read this through, and I'm going to try to make an honest assessment as to whether or not I can pick up on any anything of merit, and like anything that seems to hint some level of depth that I did not pick up on in the Bean Daddy Mandela stream. So here we go. Billy woke up in the middle of the night, awakened by one of his usual nightmares. But this time they were worse. Instead of seeing him die, he was the one who killed them. But instead of... Let me just turn that down. But instead of seeing them die, he was the one who killed them. His eyes were wide open. They felt like they hadn't been closed. They felt like he hadn't closed them in hours. The nightmare played in his head all over again, like someone pressed a rewind button and played it again from the beginning. Billy's hands felt frozen like pitchforks, shaking, trying to get a grip onto something. His eyes just stared blankly at the blankets covering his legs when the nightmare slowly faded into his mind. He raised his head slowly, and right in the front of his bed he saw a big yellow T-Rex wearing what seemed to be a pretty big but tight for his size sombrero. He was pretty small for a T-Rex, but it was still big nonetheless. His head touched the ceiling, and he had his tail wrapped around him on the floor. It was too big for the room. Billy tried to scream, but suddenly something hit him hard in the head like a hammer. If the hammer was real, it would have blown... That's a new sentence, but it's like it's connected with a comma. That's weird. Billy tried to scream, but suddenly something hit him in the head like a hammer. If the hammer was real, it would have blown Billy's head to bits. Heck, the image of his wall covered in blood, brains, and bits of head was already on his mind. The image stayed for a couple of seconds before his mind focused back on the dinosaur. A dinosaur Billy could swear he had met before. The dinosaur leaned forward, and Billy could feel the dinosaur's warm breath on its... Okay, you don't need to keep saying... Like, I know. You can say it instead of saying what it is. And Billy could feel its warm breath on his face. Billy could now make up more details from Sombrero, that it was made from a light brown felt, and it had a crimson and white floral pattern on the sides, on the top. Excuse me. A shiny gold glitter on the white spots. The dinosaur stared at Billy for almost a full minute. Billy was surprised to find that he was not only not afraid. Wait. Not only not afraid, so he was afraid? That he was... Okay. I think that he was not only unafraid of... that he was unafraid... You could have just said, like, he was surprised to find that he was unafraid of the dinosaur. Was not only not afraid of the dinosaur, but he kind of felt safe around him. The dinosaur opened its mouth to speak. Oddly enough, his mouth was not moving when he talked. It was like someone was inside the dinosaur and was talking from the inside. "Are you okay, Danny?" asked the dinosaur in a deep voice, which oddly sounded more like a human than anything else. Danny nodded slowly. as he dragged his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around them, eyeing the dinosaur, hoping he was here to help. The dinosaur raised his head and then slowly looked at the digital alarm clock sitting on Denny's nightstand. The clock shined numbers 2:25 on the screen. The dinosaur turned its head to Denny and then spoke again. "Nightmares again? You should go back to sleep, Teddy." "Wait." Teddy shook his head quickly, and then he unfolded his legs and said, "I'm afraid of nightmares," he said with sounding more like a whimper. The dinosaur looked around the room, its tail slammed to one of the nightstand legs, knocking it over. But neither the boy nor the dinosaur cared. Not even his parents, who were sleeping in the next door, noticed the sound. "What's your name?" "What's your name?" Teddy asked the dinosaur. As the dinosaur looked at the toys sitting on Teddy's shelf, the dinosaur stared blankly at a teddy bear on the shelf as he spoke. "Don't you remember my name? We used to be good friends, Steve." Steve blinked, not remembering being friends with any dinosaur, but that might explain why he felt that way with Jerry. Yes, Jerry, he remembered it now. "It's Jerry, right?" Steve asked as he crawled to the other end of his bed slowly. The dinosaur looked over and nodded with a smile on his reptilian lips. It then turned around holding a teddy bear with the name Joshua on it. "This one is yours, right?" Jerry handed it over to Joshua, who hopped off the bed, almost tripping over the dinosaur's tail. Once Joshua got back his balance, he nodded and took it, squeezing it in a hug. Can we play a game?" Joshua smiled softly to him. The dinosaur returned the smile and nodded. They both sat on the ground and played with Joshua's toys. Joshua played as a teddy bear, and Jerry played as the man in the jacket with a knife in the right pocket, and they both made jokes and laughed as they played. Then they played checkers. Joshua the black ones and Jerry was a robber. Then they played firefighters. Joshua was a firefighter and Jerry was a knife. Then they played superhero. Joshua was a superhero and Jerry the multiple stab ones. Then they played knights and dragons. Joshua was a gun and Jerry was a bullet piercing the skull. Then they played checkers. Susan was the dead body and Jerry was the father. Finally, they played hide and seek in Susan's bedroom. Susan was the sin. Jerry was the broken glass. They kept playing until it was time for Susan to get ready for school. He heard the door of her parents' bedroom open and the steps of someone walking towards her bedroom. Susan panicked. The room was a mess. Toys were all over the floor, and there was the dinosaur. She quickly turned over, and he was gone. Billy's mother opened the door and frowned at the sight of the toys laying on the floor. After a good scolding and some breakfast, Billy was ready for school. Billy stood in front of the entrance door, waiting for his mother to bring his favorite Donald Duck winter hat from the room. She quickly ran down the stairs with the hat in hand and gave it to Billy as she opened the door. The bus outside was about to arrive any moment. Outside, the front lawn looked completely white due to the snow covering it, except for a spot with yellow snow, and his father trying to cover it with more snow. That asshole took Luke. That asshole Lucas took a drunk piss on our lawn again. On lawn this morning again. His father said to his wife between growls of anger and tiredness. Billy was about to walk out when his mother got in his way. She dropped to her knees and gave Billy a kiss on the cheek. "I'm sorry I scolded you, honey, but you can't mess your room like that." She stared into his eyes. "I hope I was not too harsh on you. Was it one of your nightmares again?" she said, concerned. Billy shook his head. What a lying prick. That's in the story, by the way. That sounded like I added that. No, that's actually like in the story. Meanwhile, a father had the idea of following the asshole of Meanwhile, the father had the idea of following that asshole of Lucas. Following his asshole. Okay. Next time he took a piss and slammed his head down with a shovel. Slammed his head with the shovel over and over again until his brain splattered all over the white snow, painting it on a black canvas. And then take a smoke while sitting on his dead body. The image flashed through his head. A little smile showed on his face, but again, it was just an idea. Billy got on the bus, and the day unfolded like any other day. The bus drove down the lane. The sky had not a sing. The bus drove down the lane. The sky had not a single cloud, and the sun shined so much that the snow was almost able to blind someone. The bus stopped right in front of Billy's house. He hopped off the bus carefully, not to miss a step and fall, and then made his way to the house. He stopped by the doorstep and rang the doorbell. His mother opened the door and smiled down to Billy and proceeded to walk in. Rewind. The bus drove down the lane. The sky had plenty of clouds, but the sun shined so much it was able to blind someone. The bus stopped right in front of Billy's house. The bus slowing not to miss a step and... What's that? Wait. I'm looking at... Yeah, there's noticeable differences. Okay. The bus stopped right in front of Billy's house. He made his way to the house. He stopped at the doorway, stepped and rang the door. Wait. Stop. No, where did I stop? Okay. They're gonna miss a step and fall on his face. Then made his way to the house. What did I misread? The mother opened the door and stared down at Billy, who proceeded to walk in. Okay. That's where it is. I swear I saw something else. Where was I? I read the second rewind, that's why. The bus drove down the lane. The sky had plenty of clouds, and the sun shined so much that the snow was able to blind someone. The bus stopped right in front of Billy's house. He hopped off the bus carefully, not to miss a step and fall on his face and bleed on the clean sidewalk, then made his way to the house. He stopped by the doorstep and rang the doorbell. His mother opened the door and frowned at Billy, who proceeded to walk in. Rewind. It sounds like repetitious, but I forgot to... But the last two paragraphs preceding them was read the word rewind, so I forgot to read that out loud. Rewind. So this is the third rewind, so I don't confuse anyone. The bus drove down the lane. The sky was cloudy, and there was no sight of the sun. The bus stopped right in front of Billy's house. He hopped off the bus carefully, not to miss a step and fall on his face and break his little skull, and soiled the clean sidewalk with his brains. Then made his way to the house. He stopped by the doorstep and rang the doorbell. No response. Rang again. No response. He then realized that the door was open. Two cops were inside, looking down at two dead bodies on the kitchen floor. Jimmy stared at the two dead bodies. He could not see their faces, and he did not want to know. He did not want to, in case those were his. Excuse me, are you Jimmy? One of the cops asked who knows Steve by the door. Steve. Steve nodded very slowly. The cop sighed and said, "We're very sorry what happened. We'll try to find who did it, okay?" The cop stared into Joshua's eyes, trying to comfort him with the arm around his shoulder. The cop was scratching his head while inspecting the body. "Looks like a dinosaur did it." "It does not get any better than this." Rewind. "It does not get any better than this." Rewind. "This sucks. I need a drink." I'm still very confused. I will say, because again, my initial exposure to this story was through watching Bean Daddy Mandel's stream, where they covered it and critiqued it. Reading it myself, I did find myself more engrossed with what was happening. I do like stories that play with aspects of surrealism, and you're not really sure, like stories that are told from the shattered perspective of someone who's clearly mentally unwell. And I did find it interesting. It did keep me engrossed, but I don't know if it enough. I got enough context clues as to be able to infer what happened. I think you can make the argument that that's not necessarily going to be the case naturally. Because a person's shattered psyche isn't going to necessarily have all these little narrative clues to lead into something much grander. Sometimes people just have stream of consciousness craziness, and it would kind of reflect in the writing. But I don't know, for something that's a little bit more interesting, I would like a little bit excuse me. I would have liked for there to be more of a sense of cohesion, I guess. Because, there's a difference between coherence and cohesion. You can have something that seems incoherent, and then when you put it all together, oh my god. I think the implication is that this kid is a murderer. And he killed his parents for whatever reason, and this is just what he sees, just his twisted visions. Or maybe he didn't kill anyone at all. Maybe he's just like a mentally unwell kid who just keeps having these random sporadic thoughts that keep creeping into his mind. Uh, I'm trying to think of something I did notice that I saw as a detriment to the story, but in hindsight, I think it actually kind of plays a little bit to the story's strength. The constant repetition of like mentioning the characters' names, like in one sentence, the dinosaur turned and looked with the dinosaur eyes, and then the dinosaur walked there, and it seemed like needless repetition, and it doesn't really fit like what preceded it in a sense that it seems like a mistake that this writer would know not to make, but upon now that I actually have a moment to really digest what I've been reading, I think that's mostly intentional because that leads into the names constantly swapping, and this kid doesn't even know his own name. So honestly, I mean, it's interesting at the very least. I don't know if this is if there was any like grander scheme to this to the story. I don't know if anything was supposed to be like overtly implied. I don't know if there's some pretext that I'm missing and I'm not really taking time to really unpack like I should. I'm assuming that it's like a depiction of just someone with schizophrenia and the kind of shit that their mind goes through. Now, that's just my assumption, and I want to say for the record that I don't have nearly enough understanding of schizophrenia to make that kind of a statement. Although I have a very layman's grasp of it based on various testimonials I hear from people who do have it, and the kind of the way it plagues their minds, or like and this ruins the rest of their lives. And how scattered like their mindsets can be. But I don't want to insinuate that everyone with schizophrenia is necessarily going to be thinking things like this. But for what it is, even if you like take out any pretense of like an overarching story, and if you try to read this as an experience all of itself, the ramblings of an insane person, I think it's actually quite passable. I think it's actually kind of good. It's good by virtue of keeping me engrossed throughout the entire thing. Although I will comment on the rewind portion where it's like just talking about like it feels like that seems like something that you would see in like a play. What's the term? A screenplay rather than an actual story. Like I think it would probably be a little bit more effective if there was no rewind and it was just them repeating the same paragraph over and over again, but you notice changes done to it. And actually is kind of something I like. I don't think it was quite as effective as it could have been because I don't know, I think it. I always hate bringing up this criticism because it always it's so common with my channel that it becomes almost expected now. I would say like if you're going to do that kind of repetition that leads into like subtle changes, it has to be something that kind of like blends in with the background to really be effective. Like I think I mentioned this in the chat in Bean Danny Mandel's stream. The one of my favorite stories of all time is American Psycho, and one of the things that story does to really get you to kind of like catch you off guard is that it's a story with about has a lot of long, mundane, droning, airheaded tangents about really nothing, like this rich, opulent dickhead and how he views the world and how he views like money management and clothing and office shit and like women that he finds attractive, and then like sprinkled in with that and sporadically you'll get some like casual mention of like some gratuitous violence that he engaged in or something horrible that's on his mind, like I was thinking about doing X, Y, and Z to this person, like in the same vein, like basically treating it like it's no different than he's talking about restaurant plans. And it's jarring, and at the same time, like it kind of it earns it in the sense that like it because the story up to that point is almost getting you in a mindset where you're along for the ride and you're kind of in this drone like state. Like you're just like, okay, blah 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 blah, close, and then that little bit of horror is sprinkled in. That little bit of like I said, gratuitous violence is sprinkled in. You're like, wait, what? And like you almost do a double take when you read it, and like it makes it a more effective here. And here, I think you know what it is. I think it's not as effective because it draws its like attention to it. It draws attention to that's what the fact that what it's doing, where it's trying to like catch you off guard, and like you take out the rewind portion, just have them like repeating the same like paragraph over and over again, and then like have the noticeable changes. I think would do more to really like catch your reader off guard. But I liked it in theory, I guess. So I'm looking at the comments right now because I actually am curious as to see if anyone is able to really dissect this properly, break it down in a way that actually makes sense to me. This one's ran along. This is by Isaac, Tic Tac Isaac, Tiki Isaac. Oh Lord. All right, here's my interpretation for those who don't understand. The main character, we'll just go for the name first being presented, Billy, is someone who suffered from multiple mental disorders. First, it seems like some of those include MPD, multiple personality disorder, sleep paralysis, and some sort of disorder that causes severe hallucinations, and that he's a psychopath. Now, in the beginning, when you meet Billy's sleep paralysis demon, which is a dinosaur in Sombrero, after he has a nightmare about his parents being killed by themselves, sleep paralysis demon is there. The demon may not be hostile, but it still affects him. Then it comes to change of names, which switch the personality. The dinosaur knows their name because the dino is created in Billy's mind, so it knows what their personality is at the moment. After sleep, Billy has a normal day, and the rewinds are all hallucinations playing back in his head until he reaches the reality of the situation. Another interpretation of the rewinds is that it could be a personality switching, but I doubt that because names switch even when there isn't a rewind. Finally, at the end, he comes home to see his dead parents, who was killed by himself, possessed by a sleep paralysis demon. I mean, that's more or less of what I gleaned from it. I don't know. I feel like it could have been a little bit more overt. That was what I was going for. But then again, it might have not been necessarily trying to be something that like it'd be like cut and dry. It could have just been something that was read to be read as sort of like an experience. I like I said, like now that I've actually read it myself, I do enjoy the story. It does certainly get the noggin jogging, and I don't know why the only thing I didn't make a connection where is the sleep paralysis demon. That actually is kind of interesting. So yeah, I would recommend people read the story, whatnot. I would recommend this to strangers, certainly. Yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to say. This is kind of like an interesting read. And once again, I'd like to plug the Bean Daddy Mandela channel. And you guys, if you don't recognize them, they are the people that I've had in my past streams. I think in my last stream I had them, Kenzie, Bean Daddy Mandela, and Raptor Rex. And if you aren't subscribed to their channel, by all means, please subscribe. They're very entertaining fellas. They're very nice, too. They've been very good to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. And, smash the like button or whatever it is I'm required to say as a professional YouTuber or whatever. So, yeah, have a good one.